I predict if creation is true, we should discover something called epigenetics. Have any of you ever heard of this idea of epigenetics? How many of you have ever heard of that? Okay, a couple of you over here. Anybody else? Okay, you've heard of epigenetics. Here's what they're discovering. They used to look at the human body and look at our DNA, the information that makes up our body, and a whole bunch of it, they didn't understand it. They didn't know what it did. They said, it doesn't do anything. It's junk DNA. You ever heard of junk DNA? Like they don't need this DNA. It's all just information that's useless. What they've now discovered is that is not junk DNA. That is the software telling the rest of the DNA what to do, telling it what to turn on and what to turn off. This is like for the last maybe 10 or 15 years, they've been studying epigenetics, and scientists, their minds are being blown with how complex the human genome is, how complex the DNA is in not only our bodies, but in animals and plants as well. Isaiah says, he created it not in vain. He formed the world to be inhabited. Here's what they're discovering. Your DNA, the information that makes up your body, will change based on the environment that you live in, based on the food that you eat. Now, this was rejected for over 100 years. Science thought that's not true, that it's just mom's DNA, dad's DNA, they get together, and whichever one is dominant, of the genes, the dominant gene, it takes over, and then you end up with that. And so that's how it works. Now they're discovering, no, your environment causes certain genes to turn on and other genes to turn off based on where you live. Not only that, based on your attitude and your actions, anger, emotions change your body genetically. Very interesting. It's called epigenetics. What they're discovering is animals can adapt to all kinds of environments. We have shrimp. You guys, I live next to the Gulf of Mexico, so we like getting shrimp at the local place where they catch, fish and stuff. And we like doing shrimp on the barbie, shrimp on the grill. We love that. And shrimp can live in the Gulf waters, which are nice and warm. They can live up in Alaska where it's really, really cold. Shrimp can live down in the vents, the hot vents that come out of the ocean floor. They've adapted to live in all these different climates, these different environments. Genetically, they're different. It's because of epigenetics. It's because the software is telling the genes what to do in order to adapt or survive in that environment. And it's a fascinating study. By the way, side note, because of epigenetics, every single paper ever written on natural selection has to be rewritten. It's no longer just natural selection taking place. Now they're realizing epigenetics, the changing of the genes, is what's allowing things to adapt to their environment. You know what this is evidence of? Design. An amazing designer created this universe. An amazing designer made this world. But epigenetics is really amazing. This is interesting. When they study how long, if the genes change, if you're an alcoholic, you pass on that tendency to your children. Your children are more likely to be alcohol dependent because you were alcohol dependent, because there's been a genetic change that has taken place and you pass that genetic change on. How long does that genetic change, how many generations does that genetic change go for? Take a wild guess. 3 or 4 generations is how long that genetic change takes place. A couple thousand years ago, God said he will visit the iniquities of the fathers upon the 3rd and the 4th generation. And now we're learning that literally in our bodies, our genes are changing for 3 or 4 generations based on the sins of the father, based on the problems of the parents. I'm telling you, it's amazing how science confirms the Bible.